Hey everyone, so I was browsing YouTube Shorts and I found some interesting videos that had some building hacks to save money. So today we're gonna test some of them and see whether they're actually worth it or not. Now, I do want to mention I listed those videos in the description below, so if you want to go and check them out, feel free to do so. And the first hack we're gonna be looking at has to do with windows, and it's an alternative to the modern window that we currently have in the game, which is this one, which costs $230. Now, the solution is you take this clear window that is $50, you place it right next to it. Well, not right next to it, I mean, I place it right next to it, but anyways, and then you drag it all the way up with the resize tool, which costs $23. So we're at $73 in total right now. And we copy the paint used on the modern window, which is another $30, which brings our total to $102 for this window compared to this modern window. And it does look kind of similar. I feel like you could get away with it easily. And if you don't change the material, so let's say we only want to have the dark stone gray or the smoky gray, I think it was, that they used, and keep the blue on the window or make it gray, whatever, to make it look a little bit more expensive, but we do not change the material on the sides, then it's only $10. So then your total comes to $82 instead of $230 for the modern window. Now, if you use a lot, if you have a modern house, you usually use a lot of windows, it counts up pretty fast. So I would say this hack is totally worth it. The next hack is for garages. Now, if you take the 4-tile white garage door, it is $760, which is a lot for some players. This is what it looks like from the front. This is what it looks like from the back. Now, the solution to that is you take this plain white door frame, which is $120. You can just resize it. It doesn't resize the bottom of it, so that's good. Now, resizing it to about the same height as the current garage door, this looks to be about the same, would be $55. And the frame itself was $120, so we're at $175 right now. And then you go to curtains and decorate. You take the privacy blinds or privacy blinds and you put them inside of the garage door. The side you put them on is quite important, otherwise you'll see this bar from outside, so we're gonna place that on the inside so that you don't see it from outside. And that is $25, bringing our total, if I'm correct, to $200. And if you close it, it looks like this. It looks very, very similar. So if that works for you, that is completely fine. The fun thing is you can actually resize the garage door a little bit more, so there's more option to play around. Like if you want a 3.5 wide garage instead of a 4 wide, you can resize it as well. It will still be cheaper. Now, one thing that keeps me from placing this is I like to use the automatic door sensor. You can't use that on privacy blinds. You can use that on the garage door. Now, what that does, for people who don't know that yet, is if you run up to your garage or you're in a car, the garage opens automatically, you go inside and it closes automatically. And that's what I use a lot. Now, if I didn't use that, I would definitely use this method because it just saved us $560. Moving on to number 3, and number 3, we go back to windows. Let's just put 2 standard windows. And the hack here is if you go to curtains, you can save some money on plain curtains by buying the ones that aren't long. So this one is $70 and this one is $105. And whoever decided to give them the sand material and make them blue, I don't like that. But anyways, $70, $105. Now, this hack I kind of disagree with. I feel like this works well in like children's bedrooms and stuff. But if you are working on a fancy house or just a classy build in general, I feel like the extra $35 for the long curtains is definitely worth it, especially if you plan on adding a wall trim. It kind of cuts like the wall trim in half in a way. Maybe the wood paneling isn't the best solution, but like, I don't know, it just kind of looks a little more fancy in my opinion, and I feel like it's definitely worth the extra $35 each time. Then number 4 is the stylish counter. If you want to have a stylish counter but you don't have $230 that you want to spend on that, you can place a basic counter, then go into structurals, and again you need advanced placing for this. You can take a thin square beam and then let me change my grid size a little bit, and you can drag for $13 the thin square beam theme. I don't think I put it in the middle, but details. We copy the paint, that is $30, and then we paint this in a gray color as well, and we give it the metal material, which is another $25. Now copying this, $230, copying the one we just created, $113. So if you have a big kitchen, that is quite the price difference. So I would say yes, this is worth it. However, I tend to avoid either of those options because I do prefer, let's get the shaker counter for example. It's $150, which is not that much more expensive than this stylish counter, but it allows you to open the doors of it. And I kind of moved away from counters that do not have doors in them, so I wouldn't use either option, because with the open doors, it allows you to put, for example, and I do that a lot, appliances that you don't need very, very often. For example, I put, wow, you can actually, it's flying in the air. Anyways, you can actually put stuff that you don't use a lot in those counters. I put deep fryers in there, I put everything in there that I don't need a lot and that doesn't need to be on display. And I feel like that's so much more worth the value of it, to like hide stuff in your kitchen that you normally don't use a lot. And I know this structuring is very bad, but it's just an example. And like, I do see the value in just hiding stuff that you don't use a lot, because then if you close the doors, it just gets hidden away. And if you have counters like these, you need to like store them on the counters, which in my opinion is not really worth it. Then the next hack is comparing the stepping stone that we have in game for $130 to a bathroom mat. So going into carpets, if you place a normal bathroom mat, it's $70, so that's half the price. Painting that in the same material is $25, so that brings us to $95 instead of $130. Now, stepping stones is something you don't place one off, so you kind of make like a pattern that you want. If you do that a lot, I feel like having the bathroom mat is definitely worth it. What I like to do before I use stepping stones or the carpet is create some different options. So I resize it once. Let's say I do want the same height of stone, and then one more size, and then I just play around with the shapes like this. I like angle it and stuff, and as you can see, copying that is like $70, and this is $76. And if you place a lot of those and you have a long driveway, it really saves a lot of money even on your bills in the future, because if you keep placing these, and even resizing them is a lot more expensive as well. So let's say I do kind of the same thing I did earlier. Copying this is $156, while copying this is $82. And if you place like 100 of these, it really does count up. And every time your bills come, you will be happy that you used carpets instead of stones. And I also feel like it adds a bit more texture, because if you add floor underneath it, which is something a lot of people do, there's not a lot of like textural difference between the two of them. Say going out of build mode. As you can see, this kind of blends in, while the carpet stands out a little bit more. Now I did use the same color twice, but even if you use a different color, it doesn't stand out as much. So I do prefer the bathroom mats anyways. And then of course, now that we're talking about saving money, you can always put a solar panel, the smallest one, on your plot while you are building, just on the side or something like that. Let me just put that next to my mailbox. It's $5,000 once, but if you are building a big build and you spend a lot of time on it, you will actually save some money on your bill. So right now my bills are way too low to have an effect on it, but I do pay $0 in bills right now. But let's say you have an expensive item on your plot, let's say a Bloxburg car for example. Let's go for the go-kart. Then I'm already saving $20 on my bills each time. Of course, this is a very cheap plot. I just have a car and then some stepping stones. My plot value is $29,000, but if your plot value is like $1 million, you will start saving a lot of money with the bill reduction, 20% each time. So 5 bill cycles, 5 hours of building. You already have your solar panel repaid for. Moving on to hack number 6, and that is taking a double bed. Let's go for this modern double bed, which is $900. And instead of using the double bed, you want to use a single bed twice. The single bed is $300. If you place that next to each other, you have just created a double bed for $600 instead of the $900 that it usually is. Now, as you can already tell, you will need a smooth material on that bed. Otherwise, the textures start to glitch out a little bit, which is quite annoying. So if you just want to use like smooth plastic on your bed, let's use this. It doesn't glitch out as much. It still has some glitchy effect to it. But if you can live with that, if you can hide it, then sure. But is it worth the $300 that you save to have that glitching texture? I personally don't think so. The only time that I use this is when I have a very small space and I want to put a double bed inside of it for some like cozy effect or something like that. Let's say I have a 2x2, let's add a nice little window, and then I place my double bed inside. As you can see, it pops out on the sides, and that's when the easiness of this comes in, where I can place one bed all the way against the wall without it poking through, and then on the other side as well. Then what I usually do to like hide this glitchy mess is go into fences, place like a quarter fence or something like that. Now this is quite high, but I can do it with a basic shape as well. This is when I use it, when I have a very small space that I want to put a bed in. That's when I use it. Otherwise I tend to avoid it just because of the glitching texture. And then the last one is in decorations. If we go to the kitchen stuff, you can buy a tall glass for $38. Now if you want 6 of them, that's a lot of money. $228 if I did the math correctly. But if you use a sink, which you probably have around your house somewhere, you can walk up to it and just take a glass of water, drink it all. Of course, you can barely see the glass with my sweater. And if I put that next to the other glasses, you will barely see a difference on it. In build mode, you can also pick it up and move it around. So if you want 6 of those, you can't clone it though, so you will have to drink a glass each time. And there's some dirt stain in the glass, but if they're just placed in a cabinet, you will not see that. And that is free. But anyways, those are some hacks. So I do like some of them. Some of them I find a bit far-fetched, I would say, because it's not worth the savings on it. But some other things like the stepping stones where you need a lot from, using the carpet is definitely a lot better. Now, of course, for a lot of these, you need advanced placing. So if you don't have that, you kind of have to be creative anyways. But I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope this video helped you. Again, the videos I took inspiration from are in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe.